Welcome to Exchange with Swithun Still. What do you do if you're a 6-year-old and you want to become a spaceman? You learn to aim high and to persevere. That's how Sweden accepted a director's job at the age of 28, became the youngest GAFTA arbitrator and later its president, and established himself as a thought leader in the industry. He also runs for charity, reads, growing his 500-plus books library, and devotes time to his family, friends, and colleagues. Taking advantage of change is Sweden's secret. Let's learn how he does it. Welcome, Sweden! You just told me that the one thing that changed your life was a trip to Russia in late 80s. Can you tell us more?
Yes. Indeed. I would suggest even slightly before the trip to Russia itself was a chance meeting with a very charismatic Russian teacher who's called Chris Sullivan, and he was a wonderful man and just one of those people you have a chemistry with, you know. He was a very intelligent and warm person, and we travelled to Russia in 1988.
Was it a school trip?
Yeah, so it was a sixth form college trip with the Russian course, so we were 10, and we were followed everywhere by in-tourists and maybe some other people.
Yes.
And I did the traditional thing of selling or swapping chewing gum, juicy fruit chewing gum for little badges, you know, Soviet pioneer badges.
Exactly.
And I swapped my Nike shoes for, I think, a lacquer box, you know, a nice Russian lacquer box. And I swapped my jeans for, I can't remember, something else.
At the time, I was on the other side of the Iron Curtain. So just curious, coming from the UK to Russia, back then, what was the biggest change you noticed?
It was just new. I mean, new and exciting, and you know, Soviet Union was closed, you know, and you know, it was the Cold War really. I mean, at the end of the Cold War, but still the Cold War. So it was the enemy, right? So, and the people were very warm and welcoming, and very excited as well to meet these foreign people. I remember kids in Moscow, they would come up on the underground and, you know, want to talk to us and look at us, you know, look at the clothes. It was quite grey, you know, there was larder cars, the food was a bit bland, you know, and there were queues in the shops to buy things. And so it was a very, very eye-opening experience. Yeah.
Interesting. And you said it was a kind of one of the turning points in your life. In which way?
Well, it set me on a path to have a very close link with Russia, essentially, but also other former Soviet republics, you know, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. And so I have friends in the Baltics. You know, I know a lot of friends and colleagues, former colleagues, who are from that part of the world. And so ever since I graduated from university, I went to study university, Russian and French. I've always worked in some capacity using my Russian, not as a spy, as most people think, because they always think, British guy, James Bond, speaks Russian. So, of course, I would deny it if I were, but anyway, I'm not. So yeah, it changed my life as far as a chance meeting with one guy who was charismatic, you know, so it's just one of those things. Chance. It's something that happened and it changed my life forever.
You told me we traders love change. That's how we make money. Can you clarify?
Well, more than change, it's volatility. So it's maybe another word for change, but in the context you refer to volatility. So traders, I would suggest, in any market would prefer volatility. So that means moves up and down, or up and down. So at the end of the day, it's very simple. It's buy low, sell high, buy low. and try and make a margin. So you have to be able to see the market, you have to follow what's going on, not just in your markets where you're trading maybe wheat, but you should also see the corn market, the barley market, soybeans. And so on a macroeconomic level, you need to see where things are happening in other parts of the world, which makes, for me, grain trading the most fascinating profession ever. But I'm biased. But you really do need to see, because the two biggest factors are the known unknowns. So politics and weather. So you don't know what the weather's going to be like in other origins. So you can have a drought in Australia, you can have some strikes in Argentina, you can have export taxes in Russia, or restrictions of another sort in Ukraine. Then you can have all sorts of import levies in Europe that change, and so it's all interrelated. The whole thing is one big, like Gaia, it's a world that's all related, one thing with another.
Can you give an example of a sudden market change that you had to manage?
That's an easy one. It was in 2010. I was working for a company which was specialized in exporting grain from Russia, and we had bought a lot of mostly wheat, but also some barley in Russia in June, July, August, and we wanted to lock in our profits on the 4th of August. There were two tenders, one for Gask, which is the state Egyptian buyer. So we sold at the time 50,000 tons. They've now changed it to 60,000, but at the time it was 50,000. And we also sold 50,000 tons to Jordan the very same day. And then the next day, which is the 5th of August 2010, the Russian government announced that because the crop was very poor, they would be banning exports from the 15th of August. And that meant that everyone was frantically trying to get out the grain that they had in Russia within 10 days. And the freight market rallied very sharply because everyone wanted vessels at the same time. Lots of defaults, both on the supply side and on the freight market was very volatile. So, you would fix something and then they would say, oh, we're going to miss the laycan, but if you pay us $20 more, we can agree a new charter party. So, yeah, that was my most startling change. I'd actually gone on holiday on, I think, the 2nd of August. I was away, so I was working on holiday, but okay, this is what happens if you're in grain. In the summer, it's the busiest time of year. And so I literally then left my family with my mother-in-law at the time. I flew back to Geneva. I went to the office and I was working literally 10, 12-hour days, just trying to find freight. And then buyers wasn't a problem. There were loads of buyers, and we were able to fix some amazing profits for the grain that we'd bought. I remember one vessel, we earned, and the company earned $1 million just on one vessel.
On one vessel?
Very unusual. So, can I take this?
Hello?
And what did you learn from that experience?
Work hard. There are no miracles besides working hard. Make the most of the opportunity. Make the most of the opportunity.
So the crisis is an opportunity?
Crisis is definitely an opportunity. The Russians have a very good expression, which is, he who risks drinks champagne. So you can see I have a few bottles of champagne empty, and each of them were risks that we turned into opportunities. And I think you need to also not live to work, but work to live. You need to have a balance in what you're doing. It's great to be passionate about your career and your professional life, but you should also not forget your family, because without your family and the support that you get from family, friends, you wouldn't be where you are. So you shouldn't leave them behind and ignore what they do for you. So this is also important, I think.
And how do you see a future of a trading profession? Would you be replaced by robots and computers?
Never. Never. No, I honestly think that there's always a role for humans to play, particularly in this business. The grain markets have been heavily influenced by AI and then high frequency trading. So this is on the futures markets, and essentially the faster the connection of the server with the information that is coming from the futures exchanges or from key reports such as the USDA report, if the computers can get the information just a second quicker, then they can place buy orders or sell orders, and they can make huge margins just in a matter of milliseconds. And this is also the same for other stock exchanges. So to a certain extent there is a new wave of technology which has dramatically changed the market. A lot of the trading now is funds, and they have AI which picks up tweets, for example, or information from the market. They assimilate and then they put in orders. It's assimilated directly. So sometimes you have big moves in the market which you don't really understand, fundamentally driven, or it's just funds moving out of one position into a new position. There was always a famous Goldman Sachs roll, the Goldman roll. So they would, in some ways, influence the market just by sheer wall of money being pumped into soybeans or into wheat or cotton, cocoa. You can move markets just with order flow. So this is, for sure, a big change in the market.
Yeah, but you will never be replaced, you said.
No, I said that, and I believe that, because at the end of the day, the grain markets are people business. I have a network of clients and also suppliers, and I have built up over years good relationships. Many of them I would consider friends. I have both buyers and sellers and brokers in the market, and bankers and lawyers. These people are friends. I would consider them friends, and I hope they would also consider me a friend.
So relationship building is an important quality for a trader.
Definitely, yeah. Certainly in the physical markets, because I look at it, if I can use a metaphor of a family, it's like a big global family. So we have cousins and uncles, naughty younger brother in different markets, and we talk all the time.
What are the other qualities required to be a good physical trader?
Good physical traders should be good at analysis, supply and demand. They need to ideally crunch numbers and be able to assimilate information from a lot of different places. So it's a matter of taking in a lot of information, digesting that information, sorting out the proverbial wheat from the chaff, and you discount the chaff. There's a lot of noise often in the markets about rumour, about this, about that, and you need to understand for yourself, is that true? Is that just someone saying that because he wants the market to go up or down? And you need to be, to a certain extent, a psychologist or psychoanalyst. You need to be understanding the motivation of people, because you're exposed to risks on a daily basis. So as a trader, you have risks on the sell side and the buy side. You have default risk. So will someone perform if the market goes up or down? The volatility in the market is good for a trader, but it does expose you to risks.
My last question. If you had to place a bet on one thing that could change the world for better, what would it be and why?
Magic vaccine for COVID. That doesn't have to be refrigerated more than the normal refrigerators that we have in our homes, and maybe some way that we could self-administer it rather than having to go back twice for a booster. this would be a way we could get back to normal, how we used to live before the world changed and social distancing.
Yeah. What did you miss the most from that world that we could not have anymore?
Hugging, seeing my family, traveling, and not being fearful that we were infecting one another with this potentially deadly virus. So this would be the biggest change, I think.
I guess we all hope for the same change. Thank you, Sweden.